The Camp Hale training was like any other Army training, except it wasn't. We were in magnificent mountains. We were out all the time in them. It wasn't the day that we didn't head out for 5 miles, 10 miles, whatever it was. Rough, rugged, but if you like mountains, inspiring. I mean, just, you went up to the next day and the next. Anyway, we hung around there from 1944. That's when we became the 10th Mountain officially, and they got us up to about 12,000 men. And then they cooked up a D series, which is a very serious rating of the whole division, and it was a bitch. And they sent the whole division out, fighting each other and whatnot, all tactical. I don't know how long it was. I think it was probably 10 days, 15 days or something. The coldest spell in the world, ending on Easter Day, I remember. And we were 40 degrees below zero or more. I think it was 4 days in a row. And just unbelievable. You're carrying rifles and butts. You ever touch a piece of metal, forget it. You're not going to get off of it. You breathe at 40, and your crystals are right there in front of your face all the time, from about 30 below. Rough stuff. All tactical, no fires and all that stuff. And we passed and all of that. And the final of the D series was on Easter Sunday, I remember. We were all dug in on the Continental Divide with igloos. And we woke up, and there's a 4.5, 5-foot snowstorm, covering all our air holes, and then a meltdown, and all the equipment of the whole division just going down into what is now Machine Gun Gulch, I think they call it. All the machine guns, everything. From there, we went on to, we were sent for some, God only knows what reason, down to Camp Swift, Texas. And we had training for, they didn't know where to use us. We were so specialized. And they're still going rough in the east. And so it was going to be amphibious landings. We did our amphibious landings and all. Can you imagine going from 10,000 base feet down to Swift, Texas, and the bugs and this and that. And from there, in our summer clothes, like it's a big surprise, they sent us over to Italy. And we landed on Christmas Day of 1944 in Naples, and freezing. And then up to Pisa and right up on the line, which is the Gothic line, and we fought, and we ran a huge number of casualties, more in percentage in our 2 advances than they had in the landing at Normandy. I mean, it was really high, but we captured a lot of ground and kept going, and that was it, right to the end of the war.
Do you remember where you were the day the surrender of Germany was, VE Day?
Well, on May the 2nd, which was not VE Day, but it was the surrender of the troops in Italy officially then. The war was over. On May the 1st, 1945, I had entered a tunnel along with my whole company and another company on the way along Lake Garda, the last tunnel before the town of Torbole, I think it was, that we were to take. And an enemy artillery piece came rocketing right in, exploded in the tunnel, killed a great number of us, wounded almost everybody, me included. But I wasn't wounded enough to be evacuated. I had my knee ripped wide open and stuff like that, but I mean really wounded. So we managed to get out of there and put our people into a landing craft that came over, Red Cross landing craft, and with I don't know how many aboard, that went off, and it got hit by shells, 55 from the other side, from Germans. Sank the thing, and I don't know how many killed. So that's, I remember the next day the war was over. Well, I never saw a war since I've ever been tempted to join. I think wars suck. I'm anti-war. I think the reason for World War II and America's participation was right on. There's still no hesitation about it. But there hasn't been one since that I've approved of, or my wife, or just against the whole thing. It has to do with, I won't get into it, but all the things that are obvious. learn. You learn how to survive. You're lucky, that's all. Nothing gets you surviving in a war except luck. I mean, you can do things right, but if you move left, you're dead, you know. And so there's no way of telling. It takes a tremendous amount of luck. The difference between those that didn't and you is luck. And you got to remember it. You weren't better, you weren't anything. But anything else in life looks a little easy. I mean, really, except this backcountry stuff on snowmobile. That's like this. Digging out 8 times or 10 times. It's a little challenge. But work or the daily routines or all that, big deal. Yeah. You do it and enjoy it, and it's never hard, you know. About 3 days before we landed, the bomb dropped on Hiroshima, and we were scheduled for Japan. We had suffered big casualties, but we were obviously not on the line as long as other divisions. So we were frontline troops, and we were heading that way. And then the bomb dropped, and everything got changed. We landed, and I think it was August 15th was VJ Day. I got married that day to a girlfriend from my local suburban town. And went out and got discharged at Camp Carson, came back and went into work for the plant that my father had, the plants. And I stayed with it 3 or 4 years, didn't like it, then went in competition with him, didn't like that. My marriage broke up. I ended up in the village, and where my wife picked me up in a bar, and we've been together ever since. This is 1953. And
The
yeah.
village, which...
Greenwich Village. If nobody knows Greenwich Village, they shouldn't even be listening to this film, but that's all right when you say the village. Anyway, she was a filmmaker, and I just wanted out of the suburbs. I knew nothing. All the schooling that I had didn't teach me anything. The Army did, but what do you use it for and whatnot? And it just hadn't worked. I hadn't really gotten down to living at the level I was before, that is the Army or that bike ride, all the rest of the stuff. No, so she met me, and I became a film person. When the person who's helping you is better than you are, the one behind you, you can't very well miss. And we soared. We had a good time in it for about 6, 7 years. You can't look ahead. I found in life there's no way. You can look back and muse over it, I did this and this, but it isn't so, because when you were there, you weren't doing it for that or looking ahead. Nobody can look ahead. No more at your parents and know what they are or know what your future is. But on the other hand, I had developed a sort of a way of leading with my instinct and not thinking. And sometimes it gets you in trouble, but that's what I've done. And going to the village was part of that, and diving into films was part of that, and more important, quitting films. We were really soaring. We were in a penthouse on Lower Fifth Avenue. We had 4 kids and 1 on the way, and respected and exciting thing. And suddenly I say, I don't want to make films all my life. And that was the last film I ever made. And what do you want to do? I don't know, and I didn't. You got to stop what you were doing if you want to find something. I started to play chess, and I played for about 8 months at night, all night. Tough on home and whatnot. And we're getting, the rent's late, and the Gristedes, and the supermarket, the bills aren't paid. Nobody can believe that I quit. And I decided on painting. And I decided to be a self-taught painter because I had learned films from all kinds of people, and here I was 7 years later, I'm quitting. So maybe I teach myself, and that's what it's been.